Um, all right. So hey, it's so great to have you. I got 1 minute before, but like I said, I wanted to make sure I hit the record button. And for those who are just joining us, go ahead if you wouldn't mind. And I'm going to go ahead and share my deck. Is one, where are you dialing in from, or where are you calling in from? And then on a scale from 1 to 5, how familiar are you with Claude Code? And my hope is that most of you, can y'all see my screen? Hopefully you can. My hope is that most of you are not familiar with it. Well, it's not my hope, but so just go ahead and put that in the chat, and I'm going to monitor that a bit. Let's see here. One. Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Jagadish number 3. Okay, yeah, perfect. Well, good. Well, I'll just wait. I've got the top of the hour, but I'll just wait for a couple more, about 1 more minute, because we have a lot of things to go through. So I am going to talk loud or talk fast. You're going to have access to the deck. I've got a whiteboard link. Of course, you'll get the video. And so everything that you'll see will be available. I'll throw some of the links here, kind of as we go. But I want this to be fun and informative session. So feel free to put things in the chat while I'm going through, and we'll make it fun. We'll make it interesting, I'm hoping. So for those of you who are joining us, again, just put in the chat where you're joining us from, and on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest, how familiar are you with Claude Code? And again, this session it's not going to be really a technical session. It's more about how we can go about designing and activating agents in natural language, which is why hopefully you're here. And I'm going to show you how we can leverage that with Claude Code to be able to design those with the help of Claude. I think it's super cool. I've used Cursor. Okay, great. Cursor is a great tool as well. And for those of you who use an IDE like Cursor or Visual Studio Code, I recommend that as well, as one of the tools to use. Has anybody maybe put in the chat too, who's got Claude Code set up and ready to go? Because I want to do as much as we can hands-on. So just go ahead and put in the chat if you are going to be someone who's going to actually do this exercise with me. That'll be helpful to know. And if you don't, not to worry, I've got all the instructions. You're going to have all the examples around how we can do this. So let's just get into it. My name's James Gray, and gosh, I've been in the tech field for many, many years. I've got a background in data and AI. My last corporate job was a CIO. I've been a data leader at Microsoft, been a data scientist at Microsoft, spent 10 years there. One of the other things I do is teach data strategy and AI strategy at Berkeley Haas in the executive education program. And now I do consulting, I do fractional leadership, and the thing I just love to do is teach AI, hence why I'm here. And that's my LinkedIn URL. I also put it in the chat, so feel free to connect there. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I am going to leave some time at the end for just kind of open Q&A and chat. I don't have a hard stop, so if there are some of you who want to hang on after 30 minutes and go more into detail, I'm happy to do that. But as we go through here, go ahead and add the sessions to chat, and that way I'll kind of know what's on your mind. So what are we going to learn? What we're going to learn is, one, an approach of how we can go about designing agents and identifying them so that they can become reusable digital workers for things that we want to execute, let's say on an ongoing basis or repetitively. And hopefully these things kind of boost our productivity and our impact, whether it's for us as individuals or our business. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build these agents in natural language. We're not going to do coding. I love coding. Maybe that's another lightning session. But what we're going to do is we're going to build and describe those in natural language. And then we're going to activate these just in natural language, the things that we want these agents to do. Okay, so the two tools that we're gonna use here are Claude Code. And to use that, and I've got I've got some links there in terms of how to get started with in the Anthropic docs. And you do need a paid Claude subscription to be able to use Claude Code. That's one. I recommend that you, in tandem with Claude Code, also leverage an IDE such as like Visual Studio or Cursor. Claude Code operates in the terminal. And that might be a little bit foreign to many of you, but you can just think about it as another surface to interact with the assistant. You're just using the terminal to do that. Okay, so that is what I would recommend in terms of the two tools. And if you, again, if you've got these already installed and ready to go, just let me know. That way I'll go at a pace that we can kind of do this together to actually create agents. And then we're going to go ahead and activate them. Okay, so let's just look at the agent pattern. This is from the Anthropic kind of website. I really like it because it's really simple. So let's just make sure we understand kind of the methodology around an agent. You and I, as the humans, we're going to give the agent system a goal, and that's gonna go into the brain, this LLM call, and the agent in the brain, the LLM, the model is gonna think through that task. It's gonna start breaking that thing down into what should I do next? And then what it's going to do, it's going to go into the tools and the tool belt that it has. It's going to start to take action. It could be going out to scan the web. It could be going out to your CRM system. It could be reading a database. At the end of the day, it's going to be taking information that's just going to be text, and it's going to be bringing it back to the model. And it's going to have new context, new information in the context window. It's going to start thinking, hey, I have this new thing, and I'm going to start doing tool calls. So it's going to do that looping action until it either delivers on the goal or stops because maybe we've set a max amount of iterations. Okay, so that is the kind of think, act, observe loop around how agents work. Okay, so think about this. Think about the scenario, a typical scenario. And then one of the things that we need to do, I call it like, we need to name the dream team. If you could have the dream team of agents who could work together to deliver on this goal, that's going to be one of the first things that we do. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to, feed your scenario into Claude, ChatGPT, and have it help you identify and name the agents. You and I could probably do a really good job at that, but what I recommend, put it into one of the assistants and have it help you name the specific agents, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use Claude Code as the kind of the tool to help us design these agents and activate them. So there's a capability that just came out, I think it was about a week and a half ago. It's called sub-agents. And let's just look at what they are. Hopefully it's not too small. I'll just read it. So sub-agents are these kind of AI personalities that the Claude Code can delegate tasks to. They have a very specific purpose, right? Think about like the dream team world-class expert. They have their own context window. So the things that they execute, you can just think about it, it's going to be in their own space. And then they're going to use tools that we give them. Each agent or sub-agent can have different tools. And then what we're going to do, and this is, I was going to say magic, but it's not magic. We are going to give them some really clear instructions of who they are and what we want them to do, what we don't want them to do, and that's going to guide their behavior. Okay, so that's what a sub-agent is called. So let's just look at this in a little bit more detail. And I have the whole whiteboard, and I'll just put that in the chat. All right, I'll just put that in the chat so you have the complete live whiteboard, because I have a whole bunch of other information of how to get things installed and so forth. But let's look at this kind of visual. I'm a visual person. There's Claude Code that's going to operate in the terminal, and we're going to activate a command of something that we want done. And then what the kind of the main context window, it's going to digest that thing, and it's going to start to identify, are there sub-agents that are available to delegate tasks to? And so let's just look at, and we're going to do this together. Let's just look at what is in a sub-agent. We need to name it, right? Just like we have other people that we work with. We need to name the agent. The other thing, we need to give it a description. What is the high-level purpose of this sub-agent? And that description is what the main context window in Claude Code is going to use to delegate the task to. The other thing we need to do, we need to give it some tools to do its job. The other one is we need to give it a brain. We need to give it a model. And then the last one, which is where most of the configuration is going to be in the system prompt. Well, how are we going to tell the sub agent who it is, what we want? And the beauty of this is that all of that definition is just text. It's just markdown file, and that's what we'll see. And then as that sub agent does its work, it's going to operate in its own context window. And then when it's done operating and finishing, it's going to feed the results back to the main context window. Okay, so this is what a sub agent is, and the main context window is responsible for doing all the delegation. Okay, in this case, I've got these 5 sub agents. Okay, so yeah, keep on putting the questions in the chat. So are we ready to go do this? Let's go do it. Okay, so I'm going to come off no more G slide. And let's actually look at what do we do and how do we do this. So I'm just going to put this on the side here. So what I've done, if you haven't done this, go ahead and just create a folder on your machine. You can see in my folder, mine's called Claude Code, Claude-Lightning. It's just a folder on your machine. And then what you can do is you can, if you're in an IDE like Visual Studio Code here, you can just do File and open the folder and just open that to that kind of blank folder. Okay. And hopefully there's some people who are following along. Is anybody following along with me? Anybody going to do this together with me? Okay. If you are, yes, Munir, thanks for that. Okay, good. It's always good to be doing it together. Okay, so what are we going to have? For probably most of you who are doing this, you're just going to have a blank folder, right? There's nothing going to be in it. So here's what we're going to do. If you're in the IDE, down here, I've opened up a terminal window. So that would be up here. You go Terminal, New Terminal, and it's just going to open up a terminal in the IDE. And if you also, Claude Code will also just run in just a main terminal on the Mac or Windows. You could also do it that way. I like to do it here because I like to see the files that are generated, and I like to interact, and it's going to be a lot easier for us to to see as well as edit the sub-agent configuration. Okay, so to activate Claude, assuming you've got it all installed, you're just going to activate it and say Claude. Okay, and hopefully, can you all see that? Do I need to make it bigger? Can you all see it? Is it okay? Okay, so what we have is we're just operating Claude here in the terminal. And this feature, the way we're going to activate it, we're going to come down here, we're going to go /, and then we're going to go agents. Agents, okay? And this is where we're actually going to create agents, okay? And we're going to go through together the steps in that of what you could do to actually create an agent. I've got a couple that are already pre-configured just to kind of, right, making sure that we could get this all done within a half an hour. But let's do this. I'm gonna think about your scenario, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a new agent, and we're going to go through what the steps are. So when we create these sub agents, we can store them just in the file folder that we created on our desktop, or we can have these agents operate across kind of our whole desktop and workspace. I'm just going to select project, which means it's going to store the sub agent configuration in this folder. Okay, so if you're following with me, just go ahead and do project. And then this is the thing that's kind of cool. What we need to be great at is describing what these sub-agents are in words. And this is why it's not a technical thing. It's us who've got domain expertise in a specific problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Claude models to help define and generate the configuration. So let's just go to generate with Claude. This is where we're going to describe what do we want the agent to do, when should it be used. So we're just going to come in here and write in just natural language, what do we want this particular agent to do? So if you're following up with me, just go ahead and you can see the example here, expert software engineer that helps review my code and best practices. That's the default one. I'm just going to take one here that I could use some help with, and I'm just going to put it in here. I'm going to say, you're an expert email marketer with expertise writing clear, concise, and engaging emails that drive enrollment into courses targeted at leaders and non-technical professionals. Okay, that's the definition of my agent. And go ahead and hit enter. And what it's going to do, it's going to start to generate, and it's going to use the language model to start to generate this sub-agent configuration. Okay. And then step 4 is going to be, we need to give the agent or the sub-agent, we need to give it some tools to do its job. Now, out of the box, you can look at the Claude Code documentation. There's a whole bunch of kind of the out of the box tools for operations on your desktop. There's also the ability to configure, add MCP servers to these sub-agents. Many of you are probably familiar with MCP servers. I've already added one if we have a little bit of time, we can go through that as well. In the whiteboard, I've got an example how to use the Zapier MCP server, which is free, which allows us to add pretty much any application in the world and a whole bunch of different tools and give that to the sub-agent. Okay, so you can come down here, and for each sub-agent, you can turn off what tools that you want to give it. There's some out-of-the-box ones in terms of file operations, scanning the web. And so I'm just going to come here and continue. And the default is basically all the tools. And one of the ones that I have configured is the Zapier MCP server. And I'll show you that as well. The 5th step, all we need to do is we need to select the model. So here I'm going to select the Sonnet model. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to pick a color. And you'll see where the color kind of comes into its play. It's when we start to see these agents working together where as it's going through, we're going to kind of see the color. So I'm just going to say pink. Okay. And so here it's basically saying confirm and save. And when I do this, it's basically going to create a markdown file. Okay. And it will, here it is right here, cohort email marketer. Okay, do y'all see that? Let me make it a little bit bigger. So what is this? I love this because it's just text. Okay, let's look at the sub-agent configuration. Again, we got to give it a name. This name is automatically generated. This is just text. You and I can edit at will. Whatever we want to add here, Claude is going to give us a candidate configuration. The next, the description. It's going to tell the main orchestrator in Claude Code the purpose of this sub-agent. Right, and this is one around generating email to drive kind of course enrollment. It's going to tell the model, it's going to be a color, and this is where all of the clear instructions are to guide the AI behavior. So there's no magic here. What's going to happen is that what is in this markdown file is what's going to be sent to the model, and it's what it's going to use to actually guide its behavior and generate the sub-agent to deliver on the goal. In this case, it would be something like, write me an email for a cohort course or something like that. Okay, so these are the core responsibilities of the sub-agent, the approach of how you should go about the work. For each email, consider these things, always ask clarifying questions, right? So hopefully that should be really clear again. All we've done is you and I have just described for our use case, what do we want this particular sub-agent? Now, we don't want to have one Uber agent, right? We always want to break it down into these world-class experts because we want to be able to use them over and over. Okay, so keep on putting the questions in the chat. So what have we done? We've created an agent, and then the next question will be, how do we use them? Okay, so if we wanted to change this particular agent, what we could do is we could just edit this text, or we could just prompt in the terminal anything that we wanted to change about that agent, right? So we could both prompt, or we can just edit the text. All right, so the next question is, how would we use this? We can call these named agents directly. So as I mentioned, if we go /agents, I've got I don't know, 5 or 6 different agents that we're going to do to run a multi-step agent workflow, and they're all on the left, and we can kind of go in there and look at them and change them. Okay, so I'm gonna, to get out, escape will always get you back out. So let's look at how we could activate one agent really quickly. So we can activate them by name. Let's say I've got one here called Hook Writer. It's right here. It's hook writer. It helps to write kind of compelling hooks, right? So we can call that name, that agent or sub agent by name. I could say, write a LinkedIn hook for a post I am going to write on GPT-5. Okay. Now, when I do that, the main Claude Code orchestrator is going to look at that, and it's going to look into the subagents that it's created. And if it works right, you see, it's going to identify the hook writer automatically. And this is the kind of the color there, right? So it's delegated this task out to the hook writer. And if it works, it should actually generate a hook. Yes, the recording is shared. Okay, so that is us declaring just what we want. And then because we've got some really good descriptions, it's delegating the task to the hook writer. Okay, that's very simple. We can also call it by name. So we could say use, and we can do at. So let's use the let's see here. We can say use the email marketer. Like we could do that one to write a short email for you know, a hands-on AI course, right? We could do that. And that's calling it directly, and it's going to delegate to that agent directly, right? In this case, it's the pink one, right? So that's just kind of direct activation. What's probably a little bit more interesting is let's take a case where we've got multiple agents and they're going to work together. And the beauty is that all we need to do is describe the goal of what we want. So I've got a number of agents or sub-agents that I've created for a scenario where I want to write some kind of article, let's say on LinkedIn. I want it to be kind of Harvard Business Review kind of worthy. I want it to kind of write something that's current. And then I want to post that to some kind of channel, right? So multiple steps, multiple tools, and I'm just going to give a very simple prompt. And then we're going to see the delegation of subagents working together. Okay, so I'm going to just I've got one here, and I am going to, and I'll read it through here. I'm just going to put it on the prompt line, and let's just kind of look out, just read it. I said, please write a 300 to 500 word Harvard Business Review style article on how non-technical business leaders can leverage this GPT-5 model that just came out yesterday for kind of common scenarios. Save the markdown file, create a compelling hook, and post it on my Slack. So multiple steps, multiple tool calls, and I'm just going to allow that to start to execute. And again, the main Claude Code context window is going to be breaking this goal down. It's going to be looking into all of the subagents that we've defined, again, just in natural language. And it should start to delegate the work. If it works correctly, it should start to delegate that work to the researcher who needs to go out and find kind of this latest information on what this GPT-5 is, right? Because it's not in the model, right? So here's the goal. It will come up with a list of to-dos, right? So it says, I'll just make it a little bit bigger here. Let's just look at it. I'm going to help you create this. I'm going to generate a hook. And it's basically starting to write this article. It's going to kind of basically go through the series of steps. So let me look to see if there's some questions here that I can ask while this kind of delegation is going on. And what you might see here is you might see agents start to work. Like I've got a sub-agent here around writing an article. I also have a sub-agent around reviewing the article. I've got obviously this hook creation, and I've got publishing it out to my Slack channel. Okay, so it's actually generated some content here, and there's going to be cases where it starts to kind of ask you some questions around, do you want to edit? Do you want to kind of proceed? Generating a compelling hook. In this case, it looks like it didn't, what called the hook writer, it looks like it didn't pass the kind of article for review by the editor, but we can create another example and we can see if we can activate that, so we can see kind of multiple tasks being kind of passed back and forth in terms of a cycle, right? In this case, having a review cycle, and again, that's done automatically. So in this case, it generated the summary, and now it's going to go ahead and post this out to my Slack channel. Again, I've already configured the MCP server tools that these sub-agents have access to. And so now it's asking me, do I want to proceed? And in some cases, it's going to ask you permission. Okay. And if it all works correctly, this is actually going to be posting it on my Slack channel. Okay. Which it did. Okay, it's out on my Slack channel here at the bottom. Okay, so yeah, so let me ask it. I'll answer a couple questions, and then if we want to do another one, I know we have 5 minutes. I'm happy to stay kind of longer. But there's a question of are these agents searching the web to get the current info? Yes, I have. If you kind of look at this, it should have done this in terms of the first step of the process, called this AI researcher, right? So I could say something like create a short LinkedIn post on OpenAI's GPT-5 announcement. Right, announcement yesterday with a compelling, hook, right? So in this case, it should use the researcher, and it should go ahead and maybe I wasn't clear enough, but it should use the researcher to actually go out and search the web. So the web search is one of the default tools that is within Claude Code. So yes, it will search the web, right? I've already done this kind of search a couple times. But let's see, what are the questions? How is the configuration to Slack done? Oh, well, let me ask it in terms of Ritwix. So the delegation happens, like, let me show you another example. The delegation happens by the main context window. So if you look at this example here, around, again, publishing, let's just look at the goal here. It's around publishing an article, and the first thing is it's the main context window will delegate to the research analyst. The research analyst does its job. Then after that's done, the editor will start to edit and create and look at the article that got created. And so we've got some interaction between the writer and the editor. You and I, we don't have to write all the logic to this question here. We've got the main Claude Code context window that understands the subagents. It understands through our description when the subagents should be called, and it does the automatic delegation. Okay, so we just have to be really good. We have to do a really good job describing kind of what we want, and it's going to handle all that work. Okay. And then there's a question of how is the configuration to Slack done? I do have that in, I'll just put this over here. I do have that documented. I'll just show you quickly here. In the case of the Zapier MCP server, you can configure a free MCP server here. and you just go new MCP server and go down to Claude Code. And then what you're able to do is you're able to add specific applications here. And I have these screenshot in the whiteboard. And then you're going to get a private link, and you're just going to copy this copy command. And then you're going to come back into Claude Code on the terminal and then just run that. And it will basically add the MCP server to your Claude Code configuration. Okay, that's basically how you do it. Okay. For those of you who are only going to be here for a half an hour, let me kind of just finish up. But again, I'm happy to stay longer to answer any of these other questions. And so, one, this environment really allows anybody who's not a developer to easily define in words, just words, the definition of these subagents and activate them either individually or allow the Claude Code to automatically delegate multiple subagents to deliver on your goal. And what I love about it is just text, right? There's no code. And when it's just text, we can take that, I think it's IP, and if we wanted to implement and leverage that configuration, let's say in other agent systems, whether it's Google's, whether it's OpenAI's, we have a lot of the core definition around who these agents are and kind of what they do. And the best way to do it, what I would recommend, go ahead, and if you weren't able to do it while we were, during the session here, just go ahead and install Claude Code. Yes, you're going to need a paid subscription. You'll have the whiteboard, you'll have my deck, you'll have certainly the recording, and it should be fairly easy for you to create at least a couple agents purely just through articulating these in words. I've got a whole course that's focused on hands-on. It's called Hands-On for AI for Leaders. It's 4 weeks. And I've got a great rating, 4.5 rating. I think the thing that you're going to find different from mine is I limit the size of my cohorts. I also have one-on-one personalized coaching, which most of the courses don't. And all the information is refreshed monthly. So that's a little bit about my course, and if you want to join, I'll put it in the link. I'm offering a discount up until next Wednesday, so feel free to join me. All right, so let me see what additional questions that I can answer, and if people want to stay a little bit longer, we can certainly go through the configuration in a little bit more detail, do some other scenarios so everybody understands how that can work. And if you want to raise your hand and come off mute, feel free to do that as well. So let me look at some of the questions here. All right, let's see. Unfortunately, okay. So there are limits on the Pro plan. There are. Let's see, when you give the subagents tools, are these LLM models or APIs to other applications? So this is a really good question. Thanks, Claire, for asking that. So if we go into, let's just go into some of these agents, we can go look at is /agents. And if we go, let's just go into, let's say the AI researcher as an example. And we can go to edit agent, and we can edit the tools, which is kind of what you're asking about. So there are a number of out-of-the-box tools. If we go to show advanced, okay, this is where we're going to see all the out-of-the-box tools that you get from Claude Code, all the ones up to all the way to the Zapier ones. Okay, so the way that the Zapier ones show for Slack, creating a Google Doc, finding a HubSpot, that, as I mentioned, is all because I've given Claude Code access to this Claude Code MCP server that's hosted by Zapier. Hopefully does that help, Claire? Right? And these are all of the tools. Now, you and I can add, as many other tools as we want. I've just got 3 tools there that are there now. These 3 tools, what are they? These 3 tools: Google Docs, HubSpot, and Slack. Right. So that's how basically that's how these get found, right? And you see these little X's, we can kind of turn those on and off, right? So imagine if we had an MCP server where we configured, I'm making this up, 10 tools. And let's say for the researcher, maybe we only wanted to give it 2. It doesn't need like going to HubSpot or anything else. We can just come down here and we can just turn, right? We can just turn, let's say, HubSpot off. So each of the subagents don't need all the tools. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, so there's tools that run on the desktop. There's web search, and then we can extend any of these subagents with MCP tools. So MCP will be your friend, and it'll be very easy for it to be able to find the necessary tools that needs to do its job. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have here. Is this Claude installation that we did during class? This is new. So Shade, there is in the, let's see, this little whiteboard that I put the link in. This whiteboard has a whole bunch of other details that kind of relates to this lightning session. One of them is some instructions here around how to get started. Okay, so feel free to look at the whiteboard, and I have the details of how to get Claude Code, how to get started with it. It's basically a short install. You have to install Node.js, and then you just need to install. There's a command. It'll install on your desktop, and then you'll be able to call Claude Code from either here in the terminal, or as I mentioned, you can do it straight from the normal terminal. Okay. Let's see, Minur, can you please share the prompt again? I'm assuming I don't know if you're still with us, but coming down here to do a create agent, again, we don't have to get too verbose, right? We could say something. We could say something like, let's create another one if people are up for it. Let's see here. I'm gonna put this one here. One of the things that I do is write, like I don't do it, but I do this often, where I ask the models to help me write instructions for other agents. And so in this one here, we're going to create an agent that's going to help write instructions for agents. And I develop on other platforms like OpenAI and so forth. So this is like a common thing that I would do, where I'm going to create an agent that will help me, one, identify the agents, name them, and also write their instructions. So I'm going to do that, and it's just going to create. So the best way I would say, just get a little bit of practice. Again, all we're doing here is we're creating agents and describing what we want. Does that make sense? Everybody good with that? And the beauty here, while that's doing it, this is right. These are just text, right? So if I wanted to share all of my agents that, let's say, embody, right, the IP that I have, let's say in something specific, and let's say I wanted to give those to Mike, right? Well, those are just text files, right? These are just text files. I could give all of those to Mike and say, Mike, hey, take all my subagents, right? So we're not wedded to a specific application. Yes, we're using Claude Code, but a lot of the definition of these subagents, right, are all here within the description of what exactly we want this subagent to do. Okay. What code editor is this? This is Visual Studio Code. You can also use Cursor. Yeah, thanks for answering that. Let's see. How do you create the best performing prompts for each agent, or does Claude do that? Claude so that up you. So yes, Claire. And hopefully this was clear. When we go to create this agent, like we're doing here, right? We are essentially, in this case, when I do save, Claude is creating that agent definition for us. Okay. Now, it's going to be as good as our initial prompt of what we want, of course. But let's say this wasn't good enough, right? One, we could just edit the text, right? So let's say I wanted to edit this AI strategy advisor, right? I could change the core responsibilities, right? I could come here and change a line. And again, this is the beauty. It's just text, right? Or I could come here and say something like, um, please improve the, and we can identify it by just if we go at. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna take this strategy advisor. Please improve the air um, um, to write to a Fortune 500, um, let's say chief data officer audience. I'm making that up, right? So all we're doing is we're prompting, and it's going to update that agent with just our prompt. Okay. Does that make sense? So we can edit directly, or we can just do prompting, right? And the beautiful thing about when we're in Visual Studio Code, right, we get to see all the edits, right? We're not doing code, but we get to see all the diffs. So do I want to do this? I'm going to say yes, right? And it's going to make those changes, right? Let's see. What other questions here? Well, let me just do a pause. Was this helpful as a quick overview? I know I'm 10 minutes over. Was this helpful? And feel free to come off mute if there's some other questions that you want to ask, and I'm happy to stay longer. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, James, sorry, I have to step away. There's a landscaper outside.
Okay,
My
all good.
question, my question is, if you're using a similar server to other folks, let's say like with the marketing piece, if you have a somewhat similar prompt, is there a chance of like duplicity of content? So like, let's say you use Harvard Business Review as a template, and then you
Yeah,
connect to a certain server, but both you and I say, hey, write an article about ChatGPT, their new release of 5,
yeah.
and make it like very sticky and the most robust. Like, does it just search like, let's say, if compare Instagram, the person with the most likes?
Okay, it looks like Mike went out of distance here, but I'll just answer it, right? So so the nice thing, let's say Mike and I are working together and we wanted to share the same subagent design, right? This is just Markdown, right? So I could be storing this on my GitHub, I could be storing this right on my Google Drive. Mike and I could just be using the same definition, but his point is, of course, maybe our prompt of what we're asking the subagent to do might differ a little bit, right? If you and I ask it for something, we're going to get a little bit different results back from the Sonnet model, right? So, Mike, you and I, like the content may have some things that are similar, but I suspect it's going to be a little bit different, right? Based upon, right? Because it's right, it's not deterministic, right? Um, yeah. What else? Claire.
Yeah, thank you. I did put
Yeah.
the question in the chat.
Yeah, let's look at it.
How easy is it to attach to a custom user interface? How's it to export this and to have that connection?
So are you thinking like some kind of UI to be able to interact with these? Is that what you're
Yeah,
thinking
so
about?
I'm building up my own,
Agent.
my whole
Yeah.
agent that could be customer facing or something like that.
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, what I would do, I would leverage something like GPT-5 around helping you, right, build out, right, just describe again what you want, at least create some kind of basic application that, would kind of, meet your initial requirements, and then obviously it will need to be kind of hosted somewhere. Now there are a couple different like kind of deployment options with Claude Code in terms of how it runs. I would imagine that this functionality, I don't know, I might be crazy, but I could easily see this also integrated into the Claude UI somehow to be able to just call those agents, because they're just markdown files, right? It's just text. So that might not help you from a customer facing standpoint, but I could see how you know, this could eventually also make its way into the Claude UI. Yeah.
Okay, so you could, for example, you know, if these are markdowns, you could put them into, say, a lovable and then go out into super base or something like that. Or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Create, you know, any of those tools will help you create the UI piece, right? And
Yeah.
then obviously, right, you're going to need to put it out on some infrastructure to kind of run. Right, there's other tools like the replets that also have the infrastructure and things like that. You know, I would like, for the scenario, it's kind of what we're focusing on this session, right, to be able to do the testing, to be able to get the sub agent configuration really robust, right? Do some testing, and that would be kind of my recommendation, at least first, and then from there you could always build the UI piece. Yeah. Let's see. There was a question. Claude, the Claude Pro plan, they're eventually, you know, there's limits. There's also the Claude Max 5 plan, which is 5x the Pro plan, and then there's the 100x, and that's obviously even more. I think the 5x plan is $100 a month USD. What Claude plan do you suggest to be on using these agents effectively? Right now, I'm on just the Pro plan. I suspect between my increased usage of Claude Pro, as well as just over the last week, you know, I built a couple of these little agents for certain things that I do often. I definitely could see where I'm going to be pushing the Pro maybe limit. I love Claude for all the tool use and the main UI, and I think this capability where people like you and I have repeatable things that we want to do, and we know what it is, and we just need to be able to describe it and refine it. I just think getting this into this format just makes it very tangible and repeatable. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mike. So I want to respect everybody's time. Hopefully this was helpful. Yeah, I'll send a follow-up email with all the links to the whiteboard, the deck, the recording, and if you're interested in my course, I'd love to have you. Again, I keep it fairly small. I get to know each of you on a personal basis. So if that is something that you value in terms of kind of personalized engagement and meeting together, in addition to you know, the group sessions, I have 2 of them. I do a morning and an evening so that it's kind of global time friendly. Check out the landing page. If you got any questions, just go ahead and reach me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. All right. Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.